One thing about the Light Brigade, which is the ministry, and the Lookout Post is this podcast, is that I'm a realist and I get real as possible. I don't like fake. I don't like lies. So I bring everything to the forefront and I'm very transparent. So this is not for the easily offended or the lighthearted. This is for those who want truth and for those who want to learn and let Yah's word burn.
Welcome to the Lookout Post. This is Benevolent, your host. I'm so glad you could join us. Tonight's titled episode is Where Were You When God Laid the Foundation of the Earth? Stated in Job chapter 38, verse 4. I've come across a lot of people lately in the last month or so claiming that there's no God and that science is the answer to life and creation. Of course, the evolution nuisance that we all hear about, that we all know about, Darwinism, that's the only thing, that's the first thing that's taught in college. When you go to college to learn to study any type of physics or any type of biology or anything that has to do with science, the first thing they teach you is Darwinism, is evolution, nuisance. That we were evolved from animals, which in itself is laughable. But you know what? For the sake of the misled souls that hunger for truth and those that scratch the wall in darkness searching for light, I will continue with this topic. Normally, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of proving God's existence. While all along, He's allowing my voice box to project sounds through the receptors of my brain. How does that happen? With no connection and no power source that's visible to the human eye. But yet, it just happens. And they want to say that evolution allows this to happen. First of all, where's the creation of evolution? In order for anything to exist, there has to be a designer. There has to be a designer of a pattern of an organism. Anything that lives or breathes, there has to be something that allow it to come to existence. There has to be a source to continue. So you're going to tell me that these animals just appeared and so now we evolved from them with the knowledge that we have? We're spiritual beings. The Bible tells us that animals have no spirit. When animals die, they go straight to the grave. They have no soul. Animals were here for our purpose. Animals were created for man. Whether love them, whatever it is that we need from an animal. But I'm sure some scientists, well, most scientists and professors will beg to differ. I'm sure that they would have their own theologies and their own philosophies and their own ideologies regarding why the Bible is mere fiction and folklore and just, great poetry and great literature. It was great writing, but it's not literal. It's not accepted in today's modern world, and it's insufficient of information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best, by the grace of God, to allow the Bible to interpret itself. And then you, the listeners, you can take whatever you want out of it. It's up to you. You make your own decision. But at the end of the day, God is still going to be God. But you know what? Unbelief has been going on for centuries. But there's one thing about God. No matter what, in every section, in every part of the world, He always has His true people. Even though this is a godless world, and back then it was godless. So when you contrast now from then in the days of the Bible, there is no difference, because the immorality and the lack of knowledge of God was prevalent in them times as it is now. But there was a man by the name of Job. He was a strong-willed, strong-spirited, a lover of the Lord, a true believer, a warrior of God was Job. But the same as now, Job would always be around friends who would always talk negative of God and always doubt him. And Job had a relationship with the Lord. And the Lord posed a series of questions that would challenge any person walking. It was some series of questions that he posed to the non-believers of those times as there are today. So in the book of Job, in chapter 38, verse 4, God posed some questions to the non-believers of those times. God's questions challenged the critics and the doubters with a series of thought-provoking questions that would stumble, topple over, leave sleepless and speechless every single man of supreme intelligence ever known in ancient and modern history. When I read this, I myself tremble, because you have to read this is God speaking directly to him. And in Job 38, starting at verse 3, he says, gird up now your loins like a man. So he's saying, stand up like a man, be a man, tighten up your belt, tighten up your boots, get ready for war, stand up like a man, look at me like a man. For I will demand of you and answer me. He's saying, I'm going to demand you to answer me. I want an answer. Since you know so much, since you're so wise, you know where the wind's coming from, and you know when the sun's going to go down. No one knows. But so therefore he's asking. In verse 4 he says, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare it if you have understanding. Just off that, you're left speechless. You like, declare it. God's asking you to declare it. He wants you to give him the understanding of the foundation of the earth. So go for it. In verse 5 he says, who has laid the measures thereof, if you know? Or who has stretched the line upon it? Who has measured the earth? Who measured it, and who knows exactly the measurements, the exact inches and feet and millimeters? Who knows that? Does any man know the exact measurements of the earth? Verse 6, whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? What is it fastened to? What holds it on? What holds the earth in place? Stops the earth from tipping over or going out of orbit or just being on its own or just becoming rogue. What is it fastened to is what God's asking you. This is mainly for the agnostics, and this is for the atheists. These are the questions that God is asking you right now. Okay, so get ready. See if you can answer them. In verse 6, he says, whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Where are the foundations of the world fastened? Where is it? Where, how is it lined up? Do you have the schematics? Do you have the blueprint? Show me the blueprint of the earth. He said, or who laid the cornerstone thereof? Who laid the cornerstone of the earth? Who allowed it to be planted and solid and withstand all of the punishment that man has been doing to it? Who's been, maintaining it and keeping track of it? And who's doing these things? And then in verse 8 he asks, who has shut up the seas with doors when it breaks forth? That's like a grand dam just busting, like the levees just busting, but the levees of the Red Sea, or the levees to a sea, not a river, a sea. He's saying, who has shut the doors of the sea? Answer, who knows who's shut the doors of the seas that allows it not to come past the border? Most people in Venice Beach and Miami Beach, and everybody lives beachside. Usually people at beachside, they got bread, right? You live beachside. But what if God didn't shut the doors to the seed? What if he said, I'm going to let these doors open on these people? Since they think their money is God, I'm going to show them who God is. What if he just opened up the doors to the sea and let all the people in Venice Beach and Miami Beach and Malibu Beach and all these beachside homes, what if he just unleashed the seas upon them? See, people don't think about stuff like that. But I guess evolution is the one that stops the water from coming upon the face of the earth and just covering everyone, huh? Okay, now it's like we evolve, but now what? Where does it go from there? How do we continue? You know what I'm saying? How are we continuing on and on, century after century? Where's the resources and the sources and provision that we need in order to continue? Where is that? Where are these things in evolution? And where are these things in the Big Bang Theory? And where are these things in science? But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. In verse 11, he speaks to the waves. He said, and from here you should come no further. And here should thou proud waves be stayed. So he's saying the waves and the crashing and the roaring and the wild tempests of, let's say, the Mediterranean Sea. He's telling them, you should go no further, and your proud waves should be stayed. And it stays. And it stays. It doesn't talk back. It doesn't mumble. It doesn't growl. It doesn't, slam the door and go in his room. It stays. He says in verse 16, have you entered into the springs of the sea? Or have you walked in the search of the depth? But we remember when when he walked on the waters, we remember that. And when Peter seen him, and Peter almost drowned because of his unbelief, but the Lord stretched out his hands and saved him. We remember that. Those who know their Bible, they remember that. And those who don't know that story, that's a story of faith. Who's who? Peter started out with faith, but when the seas got really rocky and things started to get really hectic, he gave up. He gave up. But the Lord was there anyway. The Lord was there. He stretched his hand out. In verse 17, he says, has the gates of death been opened unto you? Wow. Oh my goodness. You know what? I think at this point, right? At this point of the series of questions, there's not a man standing. You know that? There's not a man standing out of millions. He said, have the gates of death been opened unto you? How do you answer that, man? How do you answer that? That's what I want to know. How do you answer something like that? Have the gates of death been opened unto you? Or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? I'm sorry. I just had to compose myself. I was a little shaken myself. I had to shake it off and kind of like get myself back in order, because that threw me back. Questions. No man could come up with series of questions like this. And then you being able to answer it. Have you perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare it, if you know it all. This is how proud and full of pride man is. It's to the point where he's getting frustrated. He's like, answer me. You know so much. You know everything. I want you to answer me. In verse 19, he says, where is the way where light dwells? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? Where are these places? Where, first of all, he's saying, where does the light dwell? Where does it go? Where does it come from and where does it go? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? Where is it? Where's the darkness? Where's its place? Where's its home? Where does it make its home? That you should take it to the bound thereof, and that you should know the paths to the house thereof. He's basically saying that you should go to his house. He wants, God has a sense of humor. He said he wants you to go to the house of darkness. And he wants you to know, he's asking you where you should know the paths to the house of darkness. Do you know it? Because you was then born, or because the number of your days is great. He's saying you were born in the darkness. Do you know when? He said, you know it all. You were just born. Or maybe it's because the number of your days is great. He's being sarcastic. Verse 22. Have you entered into the treasures of the snow? Or have you seen the treasures of the hail? Do you know where hail and snow come from? Have you been in the treasures of them? Have you been around them? Which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war. Says that in Revelations. Remember, he said hail and snow and fire and blood. By what way is the light parted, which scatters the east wind upon the earth? Agnostics, atheists, professors, scientists, doubters, haters, all of you guys, I want you guys to huddle up. I want you guys to come up with an answer, all of you guys at the same time, together. Put your heads together and give me an answer just for one of these, just for one verse. Not all of them. Just give me an answer for one, please. He says, who has divided a water course for the overflowings of water, or a way for the lightning of thunder? Who has divided a water course for the overflowing of water? Have you? Have you divided any water courses lately? I wonder if Darwin has ever divided any water courses for the overflowing of water, or has he divided a way for the lightning of thunder? I wonder if anyone you know has done anything like that. To cause it to rain on the earth where no man is. It's raining on wilderness, and he allows it to rain upon it. Why is he doing that? Why is he just allowing it to rain for no reason? You know why? God's going to tell you why in 27. To satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth. Has the rain a father? Who's the rain's father? Or who has borne the drops of the dew? Wow. Do they have birth certificates? Who's the daddy? Who's the daddy? Out of whose womb came the ice and the hoary frost of heaven? Who has gendered it? Who determined it to be male or female? Have you did that? Did you do that last weekend? The waters are hid with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Talking about the Antarctica and the Arctics. The waters are hid as with a stone. The waters are hid within the stone because they're frozen, like the igloos. And the face of the deep is frozen. You know, at this point, I wouldn't even be surprised as some of those agnostics and some of my atheist friends would have, took off by now. Because at this point, I'm not even going to go any further. Point is made. This is just basically allowing man to realize who's in charge, allowing man to stay in his lane and humble himself. But we can't do that because we think we know more than anybody, especially those who are of a high education. But you have to realize all our education comes from man. So the knowledge that we receive of worldly knowledge is from man to man knowledge. We can always learn this by going to school, by being under the tutelage of someone who professes in these certain degrees, in these certain subjects. But when it comes to godliness and it comes to spirituality, now you step outside the box and you become powerful. This is power, because this is something man that has no idea of. The average man, or the natural man, who knows not the Spirit of God, who knows not the Bible, who knows nothing about God. These things are foolishness, the Bible says to him. But us of this belief and us of this faith, we are warriors walking with our armors on, walking with our swords in our hands and our shields of faith covering our faces for the battle. So this is not to ridicule or not to offend anyone. The book itself offends. These questions can only be answered by the author and the creator of life. I wonder, you think Einstein, Galileo, Michelangelo, Isaac Newton, Da Vinci, or even the great Darwin himself will be able to even comprehend what was asked of him? With all the resources in the world at his grasp, he wouldn't even dare open their mouths with a miserable attempt to answer, which in itself is shame and chastisement for even questioning his existence, while his creations are transparent to mankind to prevent any excuses. In Romans 1:19 it says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." That's pretty self-explanatory. But we still have men that just refuse. They just continue to be between a rock and a hard place when it comes to their belief and it comes to their faith. They have none and there is no belief. But then again, everyone is to themselves. You cannot judge anyone for their beliefs. You can't judge anyone for their stand on faith. We have to respect everyone for the choices and the decisions that they make in their lives, because it's their lives. Everyone was given their own life, and everyone was given a free will. He's also given us a conscience. A conscience is the human guilt that we feel from doing things that are immorally wrong. Now we must expose NASA. Do we know what NASA stands for? I'm sure we know the acronym that the governments gave them. But do you know the acronym that Benevolent has for them? No astronauts saw anything. And this is because they haven't seen anything. If we go to the creation chapter in Genesis 1, we'll plainly see where he describes the sky as the firmament. What is the firmament? We're going to get into that. Now, if we go into our trusty Greek concordance, strong concordance, and we look up firmament, we see the definition of firmament is properly an expanse, which means to expand. That is the firmament, or apparently visible arch of the sky. An arch of the sky. We know the arches as the Golden Arch, right? Everyone knows the Golden Arches. If you don't know the Golden Arches, man, you in a cave all your life. McDonald's, right? The Golden Arches. So let's say one arch. We see what an arch is. Goes up and comes down. That's the firmament, okay? We can't see that. It's not visible to our eye. But to Yah as the creator, he sees it plainly. Now, as NASA and scientists taught us before, that the sky was an open, wide environment. That it was, that the skies are unlimited, which we know, and that man can penetrate the atmosphere. But now that we find out that the firmament, which is the sky, which also is engulfed with water on the top and water on the bottom. Let's see what that means. Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. And Yah said, let there be a firmament in the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So it's going to divide the waters from the waters. So if you have the water on top and the water on the bottom, what's in the middle? The middle is land. And Yah made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. There we go. You get it now? He divided the above firmament from the lower firmament. And in the middle of this firmament is land and man. You understand that? So how is it possible to penetrate the atmosphere when it's covered in water? Yah tells us it's covered in water. So my point is not to be cruel. And the next statement that I'm going to make is not to hurt anyone. And this may cause to any of the family members that were on the Challenger. I hate to say it, but the truth is painful. Truth hurts. It's like I say, it's better to get hurt by the truth now and realize and learn from it than to be lied to all your life and then learn the truth when it's too late, when there's nothing you can do about it. You've been lied to all your life and now it's too late. My intent is to expose lies and to allow truth to reign.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the...
So we see that if the firmament is covered in water, it is impossible for anything or anyone to penetrate it, especially if it's an arch. If it's arched, that means that the way that it's constructed is like a dome. Think of a dome. You know, the dome, how it's an arch and it's impenetrable. Now, if we go even deeper, let's think about the dome in Israel, the defense dome, the Iron Dome. Romans 3:4, let Yah be true and every man a liar, as it is written. So you say, what is the purpose? What is the intent? How do they make all these SpaceX, the space station, and all these trips to the moon and all of this? How is this going on? It's a funny thing when we look at that word AI, artificial intelligence. We know that Satan strives to be just like the Most High. We know that already. When you look at the word AI, artificial means a replica. It means to copy. It means to mimic. It means to be an imposter, false, artificial intelligence, man's intelligence, not Yah's intelligence. So what it's AI basically is saying, it's man's substitution for Yah's intelligence. Yah's intelligence is most high, and their intelligence is artificial. That's like somebody telling you, I have this nice rack of ribeye steak fresh off the farm, just cut up. You can see the blood and everything. Then somebody tells you, hey, I have a ribeye too. This one's bigger because it's artificial. Which one are you going to go to? But see, Satan is slick. Artificial intelligence is what everyone wants. Without artificial intelligence, we're just back in the Stone Age. We go back to the Stone Age. Artificial intelligence is slick. It's man's way of being God. Notice how I say God, because there's millions of gods. There's only one God, and I refer to him as Yahuwah, and his son Yahusha, the Hamashiach, the Messiah. So just like how we get wooed by Hollywood and all of their CGI and all of their AI stunts, and all these movies now are all AI. Everything's AI. It looks so real. So real. You can beam Zelensky back and forth from Ukraine to the Grammys with AI. You can bring Tupac on stage and woo the crowd and charge and even charge admission to watch it with AI. You could bring Michael Jackson, you could bring Tupac, you could bring whoever you want and have a show and charge admission and be jamming and watch them and be elated by AI through holograms and transported images. And don't forget the VR. VR is going to be life. Everything's going to be VR. Watch out for that metaverse. I ain't messing with that. That's why I cut Facebook over 10 years ago. Job 12, who knows not in all these things that the hand of the Lord has wrought this. In other words, who has created all of this. And whose hand is the soul of every living thing and the breath of all mankind. Wow. All right, that wraps up this episode. Be Neverland out.
I always tell people, even when I lie.
You notice it's become a new world since COVID hit. Don't hit us with the chip once they think we're over it. And the booster emissions are weakening immune systems. They're kicking billions. So what you think they do with them? The social devastation been written in Revelation. Preparing the saints that been enduring tribulation. Waiting for our King patient, for him to take us above the stars near his throne, where it's the safest.